monsters than we had last week.
Yeah, all that is randomized include the overworld map, the treasure chest and search spot contents, the locations of the towns and caves, the armor shop and weapon shop contents, the order of the spells learned, the enemy locations, the enemy spells and abilities, and we are set to go. King giving instructions here, and we've got 3 treasure chests, one of which has some big bucks. We've got a torch and the obligatory magic key. So that'll get them out of the door. We'll see if there are any spells. Nothing as of yet, and only 6 strength. That is going to make the early part of the game a little bit of a challenge.
Yes, you might see a few players go back to save the gold, but Game Boy just went straight out, and he found a town right away, so saving a few seconds there. And there is a shop here in the town of Cole, as well as a search spot. So he'll often go to the search spot first, just in case the armor's there, which it is. So now you don't have to worry about buying armor. You can use this money on weapons.
So just like that, the best armor in the game found just moments from town here. And Game Boy going to purchase a bamboo pole, the weakest weapon in the game.
Yeah, it's funny though, because that has significance here, going from 6 to 8 attack power. All of a sudden, Drakeys are on the menu, and maybe even a ghost, whereas they were looking for just slimes and red slimes for the most part. So depending on what's here right next to the castle, that bamboo pole could actually be pretty helpful. Magician might be a little too powerful still, although Magician's not going to do a lot of damage to you now that you have Erdrick's armor equipped. So he could have maybe gone for a really long fight there, choosing to run away. The rest of the runners, there is a ghost up on Xarnax screen. So there are some fightable enemies with the equipment on hand, so could be a faster start than it first appeared.
Most certainly. The Magicians, well, at this point with Erdrick's armor, they're going to hit for anywhere from 0 to 2 hit points, and now we've got an upgrade to a club on Game Boy's side in the town of Garanham.
I think there was actually a copper sword there that he picked up, so now all of a sudden, you know, he made a move to run across the overworld, and he found a secondary town that the other runners may not find. And so he's going to have a pretty good advantage on taking down some of those magicians and scorpions in the initial zone. Quite a bit faster than the opponents here, so nice move by Game Boy, picking up a weapon upgrade early. And as you mentioned, these runners are all in the top half of the league standing so far, so potential playoff implications down the line. These runners do want to get the win here, or at least a good result in this very competitive 4-way race. If you have a good result this week, you set yourself up for a good playoff spot later on.
Most certainly, as the victor here gets 5 points, the second place finisher 3, the third place finisher gets 2 points, and the fourth place finisher getting 1 point. So with all of them tied at 8 and just 2 points behind the leaders heading into this week, every point is critical.
So I see a red screen on Game Boy's screen trying for the Scorpion, and I don't know if that was Baby Breath we saw, but he took some damage and down he goes. They're only starting with 11 hit points, so some of these early encounters, if they do have something like the Hurt Spell or the Baby Breath, you can have quite a bit of trouble until you get a couple of levels here. But finally Game Boy finds a ghost, a much easier enemy, so he'll be on level 2. I believe Xarnax might already be on level 3, so as well as Betastrep. But Game Boy might catch up pretty quickly since he's got the weapon upgrade.
And a huge 7 hit points gained at level 2. As, well, I don't think the Armored Knight's going to do so much for you. And, just like that, Game Boy heads back. Meanwhile, level 4 for Xarnax and Betastrep as well.
That was interesting. He just went almost directly south from the castle and found that enemy. So the zones are offset a little bit in some way or another. Probably offset to the west. And, yeah, you see Blue Dragon on LordoftheSynth screen, and that's not far from home either. So sometimes you want to kind of note that and try and figure out where the zones are that you're looking for, because they can be Tantegel could technically be in the very corner of a zone in theory. So once you get off these first couple levels, you might want to try for the secondary zones, which might have warlocks and wolves and things that, you can level up quite a bit faster if you find the right enemies. But if you go in the wrong zone and find blue dragons and armored knights, that'll just set you back a bit.
Lord of the Synth and Xarnax both finding wolves. Oh, but they have Dragon Lord Breath. They're hitting for 42 to 48 with the Erdrick's armor, normally 64 to 72. So the wolves not quite ideal this particular seed.
And look at that, Lord of the Synth went a different direction and only not very far, and he finds Cantlin. So many towns actually are pretty close by in this map, as well as I didn't even remember what cave that was right next to the castle, but lots of things being found early.
And Lord of the Synth heading down to take a look at the other shop in the proverbial shopping mall of Alfgard, the town of Cantlin, which has 3 different weapon and armor shops.
Yeah, we don't have a weapon marked off for him per se, but he didn't see anything that he could make use of with the 260 gold that he had, but now he's taking a death. He's down to 130 gold. That is one of the penalties for taking the death. You lose half your gold as payment to the king for your resurrection, and it costs a little bit of time and potential distance from, map-wise. If you were out in the far reaches of the map, you got to start over from the castle. So whenever possible, you do kind of want to avoid dying, but you don't want to be so cautious that you lose ground on your opponents making progress as well. So it's a fine balance, and as you level up, try and take on tougher and tougher enemies, but Star Wyvern, still a little bit too tough for Lord of the Synth. Back to the castle you go.
And similarly, a Droll Magi, a little too much for Game Boy, tried to get away unsuccessfully. And now Beta having the same issue with a Stone Man that has the spell of sleep and just punches him right back to the castle.
Yes, it's been interesting. All the runners seem to be actually branching out and exploring the map quite a bit earlier than often is the case in standard flags. We got level 3 and 4 exploration going on. Sometimes you stick around home quite a bit longer than that. We got Lord of the Synth still at level 1 apparently, so not sure exactly what he's looking for in order to get started, but yeah, a lot of early exploration happening.
Yeah, I think Synth going for the exploration to start, and I think the confidence factor, perhaps maybe in some cases overconfidence, having the best armor in the game with all of the perks and benefits that come along with it.
Yeah, it's tough though. With only 11 hit points, you sort of want to get off level 1. Maybe he just hasn't found any reasonable enemies. If he really doesn't even have the bamboo pole, then it's hard to even damage this ghost that he's finding here. As you see, he's doing no damage to the ghost. So he's in a little bit of a bind. He still does have enough gold to pick up that bamboo pole, but right now just trying to fight the ghost the old-fashioned way here. If he can just get off level 1, he'll make some much more rapid progress.
Well, I'm not sure. Did Synth even make it to the town? Because I know that there were some issues heading... As soon as you head south of the castle, that's where you're running into all those ridiculously challenging enemies. And Beta running into the town of Remeldar. So we have the opportunity normally to purchase keys, but a little short on funds.
Yeah, that is a shame, and not necessarily easy to just grind up a little bit of gold. You don't know what sort of monsters are out in these far reaches, but he does find a magician, so that's useful. One key costs you 53 gold out in these parts. Finding another magician, so if you could just find a couple of those, you might be able to afford 1 key.
Well,
he's gonna
he needs
stick
to be
around.
able to find magicians that don't run.
Yes, 25% chance of some weaker monsters running on every turn, and sometimes it seems like they run quite a bit more often than that when they're just trolling you. Unfortunately, the Dragon Lord breath from the Drew in here too, so he'll have to make his way back to Rimildar if he wants to get some keys going on here. Unfortunate circumstance for Betastrep arriving there with no gold. But that's 4 out of the 6 towns in the overworld found already in the first 10 minutes of the game. Just the town of Hawksness and I think Brockenary are still out there somewhere. But really good exploration, no, I guess easy exploration, we should say. A lot of things are close to home in this one.
And Lorgon noting in chat, even Hurt would break this open. And that is true. Certainly the advantage of having spells. But it looks like it's bursting open here for a couple of our runners here. As, Betastrep up to level 5 and is now chipping away at a skeleton.
I actually haven't noticed if any of the runners have learned any significant spells, but yeah, if we don't have any real battle spells yet, then Game Boy's early Copper Sword purchase is becoming more and more of an advantage because he is going to be able to fight more difficult monsters than the others for a while until they do learn something like Hurt More or Hurt. So he was able to take some of that early gold to a town, and the others just they lost all their gold because they've been dying. So if they found Copper Sword now, they would not be able to afford it. So interesting advantage right now playing out.
And Synth making it up to level 2, and now already being able to hit for considerably more. That is going to be a nice advantage here to get back into this.
So chat's mentioning Heal More was learned pretty early, and maybe that was one of the reasons why we saw some early exploration. Combined with the Erdrick's armor, that does give you some survivability, and we have the Rainbow Drop key for Game Boy. You'll have to remember that for later. He found that a bit early and doesn't have the quest items on hand, so he'll have to come back with those later on.
Yes, and that should give me a chance to mention that what our runners are looking to do here in Dragon Warrior, they're looking to find and defeat the evil Dragon Lord in that little castle there surrounded by the various stones. And they'll be needing to collect certain key items to trade in for the Rainbow Drop to that old man just mentioned there. And that'll allow the runners to enter that Charlock Castle, home of the Dragon Lord. And as you see, they're fighting enemies one at a time to gain experience and levels to get stronger, as well as gold to purchase weapons, armor, and items to help in their quest.
Yeah, we have seen some slightly different strategies from the runners. Lord of the Synth striking out on level 1, Game Boy going with the Copper Sword. Now, Betastrep, I feel like his thing should be to get back to Rimildar, since he knows where it is. If he could just get 100 or so gold together like he has now and make it to Rimildar, get some keys, now you can get back to Tantegel Castle. There's 4 treasure chests. Potentially there's some more gold in those chests. You can upgrade to a broadsword, I think I saw nearby. And, possibly even finding something like Erdrick's sword in the chest. So he needs to get back to Rimildar, since he's, I think, the only one that knows where it is right now.
Correct. He's the only one who has seen it thus far. Synth now kind of trading in exploration with some fighting along the way. Smashy noting, Smashy, our tracker here, doing a fantastic job, noting that Xarnax saw the town but could not reach the town, taking a death on the way, kind of like he's doing here with the Blue Dragon, getting sniped and sent back.
So now you'll notice Game Boy switched up his strategy. He actually did a bunch of exploration early, but now he's actually sticking with the early zone. He was going back and forth right next to the castle looking for scorpions, so that he could get level 6, which he just did. And now he's decided that he's ready for more exploration. But you will see some strategies like that. And Betastrep does make it to Rimildar with some gold. So here we go. Let's see if this opens things up for him. And a lot there is going to depend on what he finds in the Tantegel Castle treasury, using one of those keys that he's going to buy. I believe he also has been to the town of Garenham, correct? So there's some more treasure chests behind a door in that town as well. And first he's going to take care of the one that's right here in the town of Rimildar, costing him 2 keys to find this one.
And since he'd only purchased 3, this is a bit of a gamble. And yes, Z-Man in chat, early Cole, which had Erdrick's armor, and oh, the Silver Harp in Rimeldar.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a gamble in that, you know, at this point, if he died, he would actually have to make a choice whether or not to use that last key on the treasury and then not be able to buy any more keys. At that point, he'd have to make another trip back to Rimeldar if he wanted to do that. We're going to find out right now because he just ran into an armored knight. And oh, but he gets away somehow. I don't know what their agility scores are, but that was probably a fairly lucky run. And he's going to find a cave for his troubles now. So I was fully expecting that armored knight to take care of him there.
Well, the golem able to do so.
All right, so here we go. Is he going to use his last key then? If you're correct in that he only was able to buy 3 keys, he would have to use his last key here because I don't think he's got the money to buy more keys right now. So let's see what's in.
Going for it. We got a set of wings. We got a replacement magic key. Very clutch. An herb and some big bucks in the bottom right.
Alright, so he'll be able to use the combination of the extra key and the gold to go buy more keys. So he's set for a little while now, and he'll be able to check the basement. Potentially there'll be a dungeon here. If the dungeon is down here, then he could, if he finds enough chests right now, he could end up triggering a gold glitch right in the dungeon. And there's plenty of shops nearby. We saw the town of Cantlin. There's a 3rd shop available in that town now. For him, now that he has keys. There's shops everywhere, so if he can get himself some gold, things are looking up for Betastrep. Meanwhile, Game Boy working on a Wolf Lord. He has a slight experience lead on level 6 along with LordoftheSynth and Betastrep. And he's in kind of an epic battle here against the Wolf Lord. That could be worth a pretty good amount of experience, and he does get him for 52 experience. Very close to level 7 now as Game Boy. And he's found the town of Hawksness. So yet another town, and he's going to go take a peek. Even though I don't believe he's got any means to take on a boss monster right now. And he's gonna try his hand at a Joel Magi. This could be another longer battle, but as long as the Joel Magi doesn't have any abilities, he might be able to outlast him by using the Heal More spell a couple of times for some more pretty good experience.
Oh, wow. And the Druins proving to be even meaner. They have what we know as the Wombo Combo, the Spell of Sleep, and the Dragon Lord 2 Breath.
And I actually missed Garen's Grieve, but we're saying that there were 2 keys and an herb in the top 3 chests, and he chose not to go down into the bottom. And he does find the Staff Cave, does Betastrep, so nice exploration lead. The Staff Cave, I apologize, was right next to the castle, but he had found the harp, so takes care of that errand while he's back at the castle. Nice exploration lead for Betastrep. A little bit of an experience lead growing for Game Boy. Not sure if he was able to make it to the spot yet.
Not yet, but getting close.
He's just getting bombarded every step here. He makes it. So what do we have here? It is a red dragon.
Oh,
it does 1 damage. 1 damage to the red dragon. Not going to be enough.
And we're seeing here, it looks like LordoftheSynth going with a different build. I
haven't noticed what exactly the troubles he was running into, but maybe he feels like he could do something with that starting gold that he was unable to do before.
And I think that's what it is. Gonna head on up here. Yeah, just reset for the starting gold. So now with just over 700 gold, is leaving the town of Cole and going to head over to Cantlin, perhaps, if he can make it.
And I guess I'll ask our fine folks in chat and in tracking about the town of Garenham, or did you catch it, Furon? There were 3 chests there that betastrep opened. And now he's opening chests in Mountain Cave.
I was shocked on there. I was shocked on Lord of the Synth's move. But there is gold in the upper chest of the Mountain Cave.
Okay, so did anyone catch what was in the town of Garenham? Or maybe we'll just find out when somebody else gets there. So betastrep with quite the exploration lead right now, clearly. And Game Boy seems to be continuing to gain experience. Slightly outdistancing himself now. Guess he's pretty close to even with Xarnax still. And so we're still showing the bamboo pole and the armor for Xarnax. I haven't caught too much of what he's been up to. I think he's found a couple of the towns. He did some early exploration as well. And now he's on his way back to the north.
Oh, we have a gold grind going here for betastrep. So what's going on here is the treasure chests respawn every time you go to the overworld map, but due to the programming limitations at the time the game was made, the game only tracks up to 8 treasure chests as open. So every chest open beyond the 8th chest can be taken over and over again. So having taken the 3 treasure chests inside the Mountain Cave, and actually the 3 inside of Garenham, so that made 6, then death warping back to the castle, the 3 chests that are in the throne room, they're automatic. You don't run over again. And then you can just go into the treasury here, and any of the chests there you can take over and over again to get at least 500 gold per take, and put that money towards very powerful equipment such as the flame sword or the silver shield.
Yeah, and in this particular map, we have a lot of towns nearby, and so he's already explored many of the shops. He knows exactly where to get all the best equipment, and I expect maybe the town of Cantlin might be on his list, since there's 3 shops there. And remember, he has keys, so he could be popping into the town of Cantlin to get those coordinates now. He's already been to the town of Cole, which had the armor. And betastrep now does have the Stones of Sunlight and the Silver Harps. The only quest item he needs is the token. If the token happens to be on a search spot, then he may want to get those coordinates to see one of the 2 remaining search spots that could have the token. I'm not sure if betastrep knows where Hawksness is, but that's the other possibility. It could be there as well. And if he does zero in on the token, he'll be ready to go pretty quickly. He's got the armor and all the quest items if he can make that happen. And this is pretty quick for betastrep. But first, he's going to get some really good equipment.
Heading over to Garenham. We've got the silver shield in Garenham. And the flame sword. One-stop shopping.
Yeah, this has turned into a pretty clear lead now for betastrep, as Game Boy has the next best weapon with just the copper sword. I don't think their strength score has been going through the roof either, so having a really good weapon at this stage of the game will definitely make progress much faster. He's going straight back into the mountain cave now using one of his torches. I didn't catch how many chests he was unable to get to, but he's decided to take that out of the way right now, since he's already back in the town of Garenham.
There were 2 that were left unopened, I believe. The pairing up in the top part of the second basement of the mountain cave had gold, and it had the Stones of Sunlight. So there are still 2 to be determined. And Lorgon asking, what was the Hawksness tile? Game Boy saw it. It was the Red Dragon.
Yeah, and so betastrep, he is going to continue clearing out chests. The token, as we mentioned, it could be on a search spot, but it could also still be in a chest. That's one of the quirks in randomizer. It's the toughest quest item to find because it could be either or. And he still does want to look for the Urgic Sword as well. My goodness.
Found it.
Woo! Betastrep is on a tear.
And the last one was an empty chest, which I believe would be an herb, because he only had 5 magic keys.
Yeah, and here we go. He's found Hawksness, which could be one of the locations for the token. So what you want to do often in this situation is you want to check out the search spots first if you know where they are and you can get to them. Remains to be seen if even Urgic Sword right now is enough to take on a red dragon at level 6. Even with the Heal More spell, it seems unlikely, but he's going to take a look. And so what I started to say is if you can search out those search spots first, it might save him a trip into the grave when he finds that later. He may not have to take his time going through there if the only thing he needs right now is the token and he can find it on a search spot. So we'll see how he routes the rest of his journey here. And the others really need to find Rimuldar as quickly as possible or this is going to get out of hand.
And Betastrep Lorgon noting on Betastrep in chat, I should say, that he is working on grinding red slimes to get up to the 337 experience needed for level 7, hoping that extra level is just enough to be able to endure what is in the spot, although he does not know that it is the red dragon. As Synth, meanwhile, finding a fire-breathing metal scorpion.
So I missed exactly what LordoftheSynth did upon resetting, but he is already up to level 5, so whatever he had in mind, he's making much faster progress than he was on his first go-around. I think he reset at almost the 20-minute mark, if I recall. So he's got a lot of catching up to do, but he's doing pretty well.
Yes. Our tracker Smashy noting in chat that Synth picked up a hand axe.
Yeah, so that was the idea behind getting the starting gold, since it was very difficult for the runners to upgrade equipment once they lost the gold, since none of them have any keys to work with, so they didn't have access to any of the chests. And Betastrep continuing, he seems to like this zone right in the town of Hawksness now. So maybe he's going to try and go all the way to 8 before taking on the spot. I think he's fishing for hurt more, is my guess, or maybe just a whole lot of more hit points to work with.
Or perhaps both, but not a bad grind spot. I mean, the skeletons are decent. The Droll Magi, though, that is a very good enemy at this point, giving 58 experience per kill.
Yeah, and remember, he has Urgic Sword to work with, which the others don't. That's plus 40. So we haven't looked too much at the stats yet, but if they don't have great strength, that is a huge help to have Urgic Sword. All of a sudden, it makes these Droll Magi quite easily beatable. So he has found himself a nice intermediate grind zone here, and he's even taking on a Star Wyvern. That might be ambitious, but he does have the Heal More spell.
Overzealous, but he does have Heal More.
Yeah, and so far, Star Wyvern is not. Once in a while, you try it just to see if, let's say it starts to spam the stop spell. Well, that'll never land because you have Erdrick's armor equipped. Or maybe if they start casting Hurt on you repeatedly or something, all of a sudden these kind of fights seem more reasonable. But not going to be able to last him. And so meanwhile, we have the regular old Wyvern and a couple of Wolf Lords on the other opponent's screens, and those are all fairly challenging for these runners with these smaller weapons in hand. And Game Boy is the next to reach Rimuldar, so he has somewhere around a 10-minute lead to overcome. I think Betastrep found that town about 10 minutes ago and has since explored many more areas behind locked doors.
And Xarnax now with a crit on a Scorpion, and it's about close to halfway to level 8. Meanwhile, Synth attempting to and just getting away from a Snowman. Meanwhile, Game Boy is going to pick up the Silver Harp.
Yeah, and I think he had more gold to work with. I think he was able to buy a whole bunch of keys. So spending 2 keys on that is not as big of a deal as it was for Betastrep. I don't know if he's going to go directly back home or he's just going to wait to take a death. Looks like he wants to continue exploring, even though there are plenty of doors waiting to be opened. He's already found a majority of the towns. But...
and a pretty beefy level 8. I believe it was 7, 10, 11, and 9 for the various gains.
All right, not too shabby. I'm sure that at least 3 of our runners were wishing they could have learned the Hurt More spell. Betastrep right now with the Urgic Sword, it's less of a thing to learn Hurt More. And from his perspective, it would be better now if they learned it fairly late in the race, so that his opponents don't get the benefit of that. Although Xarnax now has also found Milar, so they'll be catching up on what Betastrep was already able to do.
And we have Game Boy dancing in the dark here, like the Springsteen song.
And LordoftheSynth in the castle region, he's already up to level 6 on his reset run. So nice job of making up some ground. So was that the swamp cave? Did Game Boy just pop out of the other end of the swamp cave and now he's found the only remaining town, which is Brockenary?
Welcome to Six Town.
A lot of good stuff in Brockenary, but no gold really to speak of. Game Boy's going to have to go ahead and set up that gold grind if he wants any of this equipment.
Yeah, and Smashy, yeah, he's kind of taking the role of Z-Man, who usually commentates on this. Oh look, it's Brockenary. Did I give enough apathy to it, or indifference?
I'm honestly not even sure what he was necessarily looking for, unless he could have potentially picked up a small shield. But just not a whole lot of gold to work with until he sets up the gold grind. And this looks like it's a very small second continent. He's just going to get this out of the way, unless it stretches much further over here to the west. But at first glance, it seemed...
Or unless the Blue Dragon has something to say about it.
Yeah, that could be a problem. And he's not healing himself up either. Not sure why he went that route. They do have the Heal More spell, but maybe he wanted to get out of there so he could start checking out the treasury and all the other things that you can do with keys in hand.
Xarnax now on the second continent as well, checking out Brockenary and leaving just as quickly.
Alright, and he also has keys, and he's also going to be sent back to the castle. So he'll be checking out the treasury momentarily as well. So he and Game Boy have a nice little race going on here. I think they're fairly close in experience, and I think they've done fairly similar exploration. Just both got keys at about the same time, so they're in lockstep. While Betastrep, I think he's finally going to go for those coordinates, since the Red Dragon in Hawksnest is probably going to take a little while longer to defeat. So we'll see about that third search spot for the token, the only remaining item that he needs. Fairly favorable coordinates, it looks like, to me.
9 south and 36 west. Got to cross an ocean to get there, though, so it might be the second continent. Or if it's far over, you got to do a lot of counting, a lot more than 45 steps to kind of go under and around.
And that actually could still be for the fairy flute, remember? I don't think anyone's found that yet. And we don't know what's in the search spot in Hawksnest. So the token could be there, or it could just be a wild goose chase. So I don't know how much time you want to necessarily spend tracking those coordinates down right away. I think if a betastrep could find some way to beat a red dragon, he would love to be able to do that first for the information. But red dragons with not easy abilities to fight right now. I guess he's going to give it a try. But this is not an easy fight. Let's see what happens here. If he can manage this, I think he'll really have a nice advantage. He'll be able to know just exactly where the token is. Actually, I may have spoken soon on that. It could be that the flute is at the coordinates and the token is still in a chest. He has not found and explored the grave yet, to my understanding. At least not the bottom of the grave. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct, and I think Xarnax got as far as the upper 3 chests, which we thought it was key, and herb, but it looks like it's wings, key, and herb. And now Game Boy going to answer our question about Garanham. We got some big bucks. We got a magic key. And the death necklace.
Ah, okay. So betastrep must also have the death necklace as well then, so that's good. It's something that could be useful if they gain a whole lot more hit points. It seems like hit points have been lacking throughout the seed, though. It was in the very early levels, that was one of their main challenges, in fact. And now they're kind of... You know what? They're actually just not making progress in terms of levels as quickly as we might have expected. It's been a kind of a slower level progression because they never learned hurt more along the way. And the stat growth was fairly small, and they were not able to afford good equipment until they finally got keys, so... Forgetting that they're still only on levels 7 and 8 about 37 minutes into this race, which is on the slower side.
For Game Boy's case, he's got level 9 thanks to a metal slime. And thank you to Paul Doug in chat, 7428 in the spell.
Yeah, quite frankly, for Game Boy to still have an experience lead over betastrep, and he still only has the copper sword and no hurt more spell, that is fairly impressive, because I would have thought that betastrep would have overtaken him by now with the superior equipment. And Xarnax about to make the safety save with a whole pile of gold that he just did the big gold grind for. So, seeing a bunch of menus. He's about to reset his game, I guess, and be on his way towards probably the town of Garanham, where we saw the flame sword and the silver shield are waiting.
Game Boy, meanwhile, navigating the mountain cave in the dark, just picking up the big stick, Erdrick's swords. That's 40 attack power to the total.
Oh, that's a fantastic find for Game Boy, who never did initiate a gold grind, so he was still sitting on inferior equipment. So being able to find Erdrick's sword there, it'll be interesting to see if he actually does choose to gold grind out of this cave, or if he wants to not bother with it now. Silver shield being generally the least necessary equipment to try and do a gold grind for. Sometimes you can make do with just the large shield for just 800 gold. So that'll be a decision he'll make once he finishes exploring this dungeon.
And betastrep, meanwhile, just found out about the red dragon in Hawksnest and just decided to swipe at it.
Game Boy attempting to go after the werewolf now that he does have Erdrick's sword. He figures he's basically He-Man, just doubled his strength overnight here, or his attack power. He's going to
or werewolves have heal.
Oh, that's gross. And so he just spent all his resources on that fight. I don't know that he's gotten all the chests in this dungeon. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but
He only has the last one, which we know is an herb.
Yeah, but for his peace of mind, he really wants to get there, and he doesn't really have any resources remaining. But he is going to go after the Rogue Scorpion anyways. The Rogue Scorpion with the hurt spell, kind of a nice surprise, because they're worth quite a bit of experience as well.
Yeah, nice 70, not too shabby.
Not going to bother now with the werewolf fight now that he has the information. That is one of the things when you run the randomizer. It's part of the strategy and the skill of the game is to remember which enemies have which abilities, since the abilities are randomized. The enemy stats are fixed, so part of it is that you have to sort of study and memorize all the stats for the monsters, but as you're playing through, the abilities that they have are random, and once you learn what one of them has, that should influence your strategy for future encounters. So we see Game Boy skipping the werewolf fights now.
And Beta, having the knowledge of the coordinates and the knowledge of the red dragon, is saying, to heck with the dragon, I am going to painstakingly count out this 9 south and 36 west.
Oh, okay. Who's doing this count? I'm sorry, Betastrep is counting?
It looks like Betastrep is counting.
So that's an interesting gamble. Like we said, in theory, it would be great if you could get the Hawksnest search spot out of the way first. But like you said, that red dragon is just not fightable right now. So, and he finds another one now in the overworld, interrupting his count, which is one of the things that can go wrong on your count. So that's a little bit of a strategy gamble for Betastrep to try and make this count happen and hope that the token is there, which would save him a trip into other dungeons and save him the Hawksnest fight, but no. He will have to restart the count. And it doesn't look like the red dragons have any abilities, right, Furon? It looks like they just have the big attack. And they have a very big attack. They have a much higher strength rating than every other monster in the game, except perhaps for the golem. And so,
nasty, huge, pointy teeth.
Even with the best defensive equipment in the game, the Erdrick's armor and the silver shield, you're still going to take damage sometimes in the 30s from a red dragon, basically always. And they also happen to be the most difficult monster to run away from. So you have that combination. Oftentimes, you just aren't going to survive that. And the next worst thing to encounter is this Armored Knight, since they don't yet have the Hurtmore spell. Does manage to get away from that one, though. Once Hurtmore is learned, those enemies are much more easily fightable, but before you have it, they are a menace as well. So here we have Swamp North for Betastrep, while Xarnax goes into the dungeon that's back behind Garanham here.
And Synth, it looks like, is working on a grind.
And I thought for a moment, being in Swamp North, that Betastrep would be going for the princess here, since the count was interrupted and he still wants to go and find out that search item, but I think so far he's just passed right by where the princess is hanging out. He's just going to check out what's on the other side for now. And maybe on the return trip back through, assuming this is a small continent over here, maybe he'll remember to grab the princess on the way. Assuming that the boss enemy there is more beatable than the red dragon is in the town of Hawksnest. We haven't seen anyone check that tile yet, have we?
We have not.
So that's another thing that could be just useful information for your endgame grinds, because maybe you don't necessarily want to grind on red dragons. Although, once you get strong enough, that's less bad than it might sound. But maybe there's an even better grind choice on the spike tile in the Swamp Cave, but Betastrep choosing to just pass by there for right now, at least.
And
I'm sorry, I continue to be impressed by the experience lead that Game Boy has managed. For quite a while, he had just the copper sword, and I know you mentioned he got at least one metal slime along the way as well, but he is really rolling now experience-wise. He's up to level 10.
Oh, wow. And Axe Knights have the spell of Stop Spell, and they're casting it a lot. That is going to be a great enemy to potentially grind. That's 3 castings now of Stop Spell, and a 4th in a row.
Alright, so we might have a 75% Stop Spell, which never lands when you have Erdrick's Armor equipped, which all of our runners got in the beginning of the game. And so if it never lands, then their AI says that they might just keep casting it. Once it does land, they'll move on to something else, but since it won't land, that is, and like you said, a perfect enemy for a grind later on if they need to grind more levels. Not sure if we have access to the stats, but if we still have kind of a low strength, we know they have fairly low HP still. We might be a half a dozen levels away. And in Betastrep's case, all he needs is the token. So if you can find a good enemy or a good desert region to grind on, the Axe Knight seems like a really good choice in this one.
Most certainly. And we want to welcome those of you joining us from Randomania, raiding in here. We have a matchup of 4 of the top 8 runners here in the Dragon Warrior Randomizer League alongside Up to NG. I'm Ferran Burgundy. And we have had a heck of a matchup here in the course of the last 45 minutes where, well, we had a town nearby. Yeah, this is Group 2, as Amazing Toaster noting in chat. Thank you. We had a pretty close town nearby in the town of Cole that happened to have Erdrick's Armor, and that really got things going from a defensive standpoint. The attack was a little paltry in the beginning, but the purchasing of a, believe it or not, a bamboo pole certainly helped things out in the early going. And since then, as far as the notable items, well, Erdrick's Sword as well as the Stones of Sunlight, they were both in the Mountain Cave. The Silver Harp was in the town of Rimeldar. And as mentioned, Erdrick's Armor was in the search spot in Cole. We know that the overworld item is 9 steps south and 36 steps west, but it is a rather windy count, to say the least. And the guardian enemy in Hawksnest is the Red Dragon, the Fun Police. So they are keeping our runners from doing so here. And now it looks like Xarnax is going to try to make that count.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome to new viewers. It's actually been quite a fun seed to watch because it hasn't been a jet seed, but it hasn't been really what might be referred to as a hell seed. I don't know if that's PG enough around here, but it's been kind of a smooth, challenging seed where, you know, the levels have not come very quickly, but they were able to make progress all along. A lot of the towns were close by, but it was difficult for them to make progress experience-wise for quite a while. They were still on levels 6, 7, and 8, more than a half an hour in. So it's been fun to watch and see how they manage to make more rapid progress as things progressed. And I noticed that Betastrep went back into Hawksnest. He kind of likes that desert region right in the town of Hawksnest to grind on. I think there are Star Wyvern and Droll Magi and a couple of things. And I think he was hoping that level 10 was going to give him some means to fight the Red Dragon. And when it didn't, he just exited the town and has resumed his progress. But I feel like he really wants to search that spot first. So he keeps kind of going back there for one more level. And still has not been able to search that spot yet, though. Only the token remains for Betastrep, so and it's the spot in Hawksnest and this difficult count are the two things that he's hoping that the token and he does not have the token as evidenced by the jerk there. So that is what happens if you do not have Erdrick's token, the token of heritage.
And that is why that is known as the Jerk Cave, because he just kicked Betastrep out like the jerk that he is. And noticing in chat here that, yes, it looks as though the behind the scenes haven't exactly been updated, but make sure to give those folks a follow, as they're all awesome as well. But behind the scenes here, well, we've got Smashy taking care of the tracking. We've got Tyrannex on the restream, as well as Up to NG and myself, Ferran Burgundy. We are here bringing the action to you.
So I just want to note that Xarnax found kind of a narrow portion of the river and made he kind of made note of where he was in the count, and then walked all the way around and kind of used a landmark to continue his count from the other side of the river. So we'll see if he's successful if it happens to be down here. That was kind of an advanced play that he used. I'm not sure if he has managed to hold on to that count though, but that's what he was doing there. So it's a nice idea. I think that windy path, like you said, it kind of takes you around a waterway, which does narrow at a point where you can see to the other side. If you can figure out where that is, sometimes you can pick your count up on the other side. And all of this, of course, is so that you don't have to go rescue the princess, which right now we don't know what's guarding the princess, but they don't really have a great way to fight boss monsters just yet. So they've all been trying to do the count without the princess at this point. So Game Boy here is fighting a red dragon. Let's see if it's beatable for him yet on level, what's he, oh, he's still on level 10?
On 10, now about to go to 11 after taking it out. And it looks as though the red dragon also guarding the princess.
Yep, that's exactly where he was, I believe. All right. So, not much choice then in terms of an endgame grind. And like you said, maybe he is somebody that may have made a note of where the Axe Knights were popping up in the overworld. It's not common that the overworld is the best choice of a grind, but this might be one of those cases. At least until they're able to take out red dragons with some consistency.
And Smashy asking, did he get the kill and not go for the rescue? I think it was more just for information, and he figured, all right, I got it, and now out I go.
Honestly, I don't remember if Game Boy has gotten the coordinates yet, even though Cantlin is not that far away, and he has had keys for a little while. Do you remember him getting the coordinates? So he may not have wanted to bother with the princess rescue, not having had the coordinates yet, for example.
That is entirely possible. Is Game Boy now finding the Vanilla Stones of Sunlight Cave, which has a cursed belt?
Yeah, so now it's even more likely that we're going to find the token on a spot. And Betastrep is resuming that count once again, hoping that the token is there and not in Hawksness.
Well, at this point, if Erdrick's token is in a treasure chest, it's either going to be in the tablet cave or it's going to be one of the two chests deep in Garen's grave. Or it could be in the overworld, as Betastrep has just found.
Wow, alright, so that was not an easy count, but he did meander around the windy path and he found the token laying there in the hills. So he is now in grind and go mode. He's got the Erdrick sword, Erdrick's armor, he's got all the stuff. I believe Staff Cave is right back next to Tantigua Castle if he has not taken care of that errand. And if he has, the Rainbow Drop Cave was right up near Sharlock. We saw him go in there just a few minutes ago. So he knows where that is. He'll be able to get the Rainbow Drop from there. And now it's a matter of what do you do about a grind if you can't yet fight red dragons? Because all he needs left to finish the game now is just more levels.
Indeed, as all the best equipment money can buy, and even a few equipment better than what money can buy. In the priceless Erdrick's token and Erdrick's arm.
So this is why I'm wondering if Game Boy has gotten the coordinates yet, because he has also the staff and the stones in hand, as well as the sword and the armor. The only thing he needs is the token. So a lot of times when that's the case, you really want to get those search spots out of the way before you go diving deep down into dungeons looking for something that may not even be in a chest. So I feel like that's Game Boy's priority now. He's got to, if he doesn't have the coordinates, he's got to get them and start counting that out. And Betastrep now, this is his opportunity to try and efficiently grind up some experience points the best way that he knows how, and try and overtake Game Boy's small lead here. And he's just now reached level 11, just 600 points behind Game Boy. But he can now do a dedicated grind. That's all he has left to do. So he can just spend all his time and energy on that, while Game Boy still has to run around and look for things. So interesting race there shaping up between those two on the bottom screens.
As Synth finding the tablet cave, which contained a torch. So the only two treasure chests in the overworld that we do not know the contents are the two deep in Garen's grave, as all of our runners have only gone to the top. But it looks as though there isn't going to be anything necessary there. I mean, a fighter's ring, sure, to be nice. It'll give you an additional 2 attack power, but otherwise, as far as what is needed, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I believe both the fighter's ring and or the flute could actually be in the Sharlock treasure as well, since they're not required to access Sharlock. I don't see anybody necessarily going for the fighter's ring unless it's a super borderline last level situation where the 2 attack power becomes really meaningful. Every once in a while you see that happen where they have to make a trip into the Sharlock treasury for those extra 2 points, but we'll cross that bridge later when we figure out how their stats are progressing.
Oh wow, Lord of the Synth just getting to the other side of the swamp cave and being met by our friend the Red Dragon.
Yeah, so Betastrep, this is what we mentioned earlier. Betastrep has found a desert with the Axe Knights, and he's decided that is his ticket. The Axe Knight spams the stop spell, and he has found a place to walk back and forth in the desert. I think that's a really heads-up play when the Red Dragon is still not very efficient for you. Finding these enemies on the overworld that are really good and yield a lot of experience is a nice play, although he should be walking in the desert instead of in the plains, but he's just about out of resources as well. But even with no MP, he's able to heal walk his way with Erdrick's armor equipped, and I think he's able to defeat Axe Knights every time he runs into them right now. Excellent move on the Rogue Scorpion as well. So a nice little spot.
And that is, and Smashy confirming that that was the reason why Betastrep was walking on the plains, was to heal walk in between battles, as the plains have a lower percentage of encounter, or lower encounter rate than the desert tiles do.
So I don't know if he's way out in the far reaches somewhere where there's just not a town nearby, and typically you'd want to refill your resources with a town, although we remember we found most of the towns pretty close to the castle. So a lot of this map is probably pretty empty. And he's out there somewhere, choosing not to go back to a town.
And
Probably.
Speaking of empty, want to welcome Empty Eye into the chat here. Having a race a little bit earlier. Yeah, it's amazing how these things just work.
Yeah, it seemed like a fairly quick race, right? That we welcomed everybody in. They were going just an hour before this one, correct? So
that is correct. And in about an hour from now, we will have the third of our trifecta here later tonight.
We got Lord of the Synth is now in the grave. Don't recall there being anything too exciting up here on the top of the grave. I don't remember if anyone's really gone to the bottom, though. Wonder if he'll be the first to check out what's down there.
Quite possibly. And as a quick programming note, that will be over on Randomania 2. It's going to be Group 6 competing, as you have Basp33, Tristal, Captain Green 7, and Ryusation. That'll be just 1 hour from now over on Randomania.
So I do want to point out, Game Boy is trying to look for that token, and he is going to try this red dragon now in the town of Hawksnest, now at level 12. Seems like he has a reasonable chance of beating this red dragon, and he will get the news. Either it'll be the flute here, or sometimes it'll just be nothing. And at that point, he's going to have to try and count out those coordinates. But I was wondering if, at first, if this was a battle of the grinds here. Game Boy choosing Red Dragon, Spike Tile, and Betastrep in the desert fighting Axe Knights, but no. Game Boy just wanted to check out, I believe, what was under the Red Dragon. Did he search the spot?
I don't believe he did.
What is happening? Maybe he searched it earlier and he was just going back for more Red Dragon. I don't know. Well, there's a town right here where he can refill anyways, and see if he goes back there. I don't know. Our tracker saying he never did check the spot. So
yeah, chat confirming all across the way. So not necessarily crucial in terms from what we know, but had that been an essential item, that would be a huge mental lapse.
Yeah, you know, he's probably going back there anyways. I think he has decided he can. Maybe it's kind of slow, but he can defeat these red dragons. He's taken one on in the overworld. They are worth 255 every time you defeat them. It's just, right now, it's a fairly long battle, so I don't know if it's time efficient to do this, but I think he's just going to go right back there and fight some more red dragons anyways. So maybe he's realizing also that he forgot to search the spot, but expect him to go right back there, take care of that. When he finds that it's not the token, you know, he'll have it narrowed down now on where it might be.
Oh, and Xarnax finding the red dragon and nopes right on out of there.
Yeah, he's only on level 10, so it's a lot less. He has less of a chance to defeat one than Game Boy does right now. And I haven't really been able to figure out what has caused Xarnax to lag so far behind in this experience battle. It just, all of a sudden I looked up and he was still kind of on level 9 and had dropped way off from the pace that Game Boy's been setting. So I don't know if he's been taking some deaths and just struggling a little bit more than the others, but he has fallen behind. It's still pretty close though between Betastrep and Game Boy. Betastrep, of course, only has to grind. Game Boy still has to find the token. So I'll have to see if Game Boy's slim lead over Betastrep evaporates while he does this. This zone that Betastrep's found is pretty good. It's got Rogue Scorpions, which is an easy 70 points at this point. The Axe Knight with the stop spell casting. And I guess there are Spectres here as well. He seems to not be using the Repel spell right now.
While Xarnax hasn't been doing a lot of fighting of enemies, he gathered all the things and is the first in Charlotte.
Okay. Well, there you go. And so there's some things that he can do if he wants to try and go down and look for the fighter's ring down in the treasury. He can see how far he can make on that progress. Maybe sometimes people will go down just a couple of floors just to see which enemies are in the various zones, so that when they come back here later, they'll have a better chance to know what they're up against. There are very, good experience enemies all throughout Charlotte, so it's not a bad way to just grind some levels, get some information at the same time, especially if he feels like he really can't take on the Red Dragon Spike Tiles. Once the Spike Tiles are out, Charlotte actually becomes a pretty reasonable grind choice. So right now he seems like he's just hovering around on the top floor. Perhaps these are favorable enemies for his level right now. And we still don't have Hurtmore marked off for anyone, right? So this is a late Hurtmore seed. So it makes the grinding even more slow here. See, right now, this would be a perfect spot for Betastrep if he had Hurtmore. Between the Axe Knights and the Rogue Scorpions popping up, he could be just plowing through levels if he had Hurtmore. I'm sure he's hoping he's going to get it right here, but he's not going to.
Now, our runners are guaranteed to learn all 10 spells by level 16. So, Hurtmore's coming, it's just a matter of when.
Betastrep just popped open his stats right there, but I missed what it was, so if anyone caught exactly where their strength is or anything like that, I think they still probably have a ways to go from the damage that they're doing. Seems to be fairly low strength, and it looks like their HP is still pretty low as well. So probably multiple levels remaining for Betastrep to grind here, and he's going to have to do it right now without the Hurtmore spell. Game Boy going back for more red dragons, see if he searches the spot this time. Thanks to the trackers, we have some stats. 54 strength.
Oh,
is pretty poor. So we have green stats, we got orange stats, but then we have like the one where the strength is. That's just like a nothing, no color, meaning no go.
Yeah, that is an indication that we're going to need some training montage music.
And remember, they did pick up the Death Necklace in the town of Garanam, I believe. So if the strength score continues lagging, we may end up getting some hit points, and that would require less strength than otherwise. Typically, you're going to want around 90 strength before you really start calculating what's going on. But if you do end up using the Death Necklace, then it would be more like 80 strength. But they're still in the 50s for strength, so more than likely we have multiple levels remaining to grind. And again, it's kind of unfortunate for Betastrep that they're not learning the Hurtmore spell, because he's really been unable to catch up to Game Boy, even though he's doing a dedicated grind and Game Boy is still running around looking for things. If he was able to just Hurtmore his way through this zone, I think he would have the lead by now.
Well, it looks like Game Boy has been, the lead has been chipped away at, as Game Boy, well, now after taking out a blue dragon, has increased it to about 600 and change. But the challenge of taking on the red dragon over and over again versus Betastrep's challenge of a various group of enemies, whether I see there's a Druid in there, as well as a Spectre, the blue dragon, and the Axe Knight. Betastrep's been chipping away at the lead.
Yeah, and even just this walk back to the town that Game Boy has to keep doing, although he is picking up some blue dragons kind of en route, which is fortunate for him. But then he's got to walk all the way back through Hawk's Nest to get back to the spike tile. And then the red dragon fights themselves are pretty slow. Apparently he picked up the flute on that spot, by the way, so at least our tracker has that marked off for him. So he should know now where the token is if he went and got coordinates, because if the coordinates are there, from his perspective, then the token has to be there at this point. Unless he went and got the token already and we missed it, but because he seems to right now just be wanting to grind. He's going back for more red dragons. I guess he feels like that's the best way, since they don't yet have Hurtmore. Even on level 14. I expect that if he does get Hurtmore on 15, he'll leave this and go look for, an Axe Knight zone somewhere. And by then, he might be en route to try and go get the token as well.
Yep,
and
no Hurtmore at 14.
And you're right, Betastrep is chipping away at that lead. It's actually pretty close now. But it takes like 2 of these Axe Knight kills to equal 1 red dragon kill just because of the experience gained. And so unfortunately, because he doesn't have hurt more, these Axe Knight battles are fairly long. If he had hurt more, they would take less than 10 seconds, and the lead would be growing for betastrep. But he's just fighting his way through all these enemies. These are all kind of epic battles when you still have strength score in the 50s. So plus 40 from the Erdrick Sword. They're still looking at under 100 for attack power. So all the Sarlacc enemies are going to take multiple hits before they go down.
Meanwhile, it looks like Xarnax is grinding in the desert, as that's all he needs at this point is levels and experience.
Yeah, grind and grow for Xarnax. Very nice job. As you said, the first to acquire the rainbow drop. And Lord of the Synth is in a dungeon. Looks like the last mountain cave chest. And he was in the grave earlier, so he should be basically almost done with treasure chests. And we see that he also only has the token remaining, same situation as Game Boy. So if he found Caitlin and he got the coordinates, he might be en route to getting the rainbow drop as well. So has Game Boy left the area? Is he en route for the token now? Seems like he might be done with that grind temporarily.
Perhaps, and as he was walking back, perhaps looking for another town, in this case, Cantlin.
Yeah, see, I don't think he ever got the coordinates. He's going there now. Yeah, all this time he never got the coordinates. And that's why I think he passed on the princess as well.
And this gives a chance for Beta to chip away at the experience lead, as while Game Boy is going to be searching and counting out the coordinates, betastrep can continue to fight enemies. Although that one, not necessarily the one that he wants. Or does he with an excellent move? Why the heck not?
Wow, on 0 MP, he just goes for it, gets the crit. So with that, I believe they're basically even on experience. If he could get this red dragon, they'll be even on experience. So what a race shaping up. Well, he is at level 14 now. It's not the same situation as earlier, but yes, he does go down. Ugh. So Game Boy has taken out several of these. betastrep's still unable to. Didn't have any MP to work with in that particular battle, so understandable. HP is still not enough to take on the Dragon Lord. Strength is still really low.
And you had mentioned the Death Necklace earlier. That is hardly a consideration, considering what the Death Necklace does. When you put it on in the game, well, not only does it curse you, which is obviously bad, but it was reworked a little bit here in Dragon Warrior Randomizer, that once you put on the Death Necklace, it gives you an additional 10 attack power, but at a cost of 25% of your maximum hit points. And usually you'll see runners start to put that on, or at least consider it, once there's a minimum of 130 hit points. Our runners are... they're peaking at 89 at the moment, so...
Yeah, not anywhere near there right now, but it just feels like it could come into play to me because the strength is so low. So it all depends on which of the two stats kind of gets a nice boost in the next couple of levels, because all of a sudden if you start getting HP and you're not getting strength, it's nice to have it in your back pocket at least. They don't have to go looking for it. They all got it when they were going through Garenham. So potentially that's 10 less strength that they'll need to gain, you know, if things get out of hand and we go several more levels without gaining strength. Eventually they'll start getting hit points, and that will help take care of the problem, which, by the way, that was one of the main motivations for why the creator of the randomizer invented the Death Necklace functionality in the first place, because there were occasional seeds where you had to get just obnoxious levels because the strength score just wouldn't get there. And so this is just another way to make sure that you have enough attack power. But yeah, all that is speculative. Like you said, the HP is still really low. So right now, they're not even close to using it. Betastrep now is going to take a peek into Sharlock. So he's had enough of walking around in the desert. And potentially, well, yeah, I think the stats are still really low. But I've seen him gamble on, fighting your way down strats. I don't know if we're there yet on this, but they do have like about 90 MP. And so if you're in a situation where the next level up gives you the strength and the HP, then you don't have to actually go back to an inn. Well, he doesn't have, he's been using the MP on the way, so I think he's just coming in here for information. But eventually we could see a situation where they try and get that last level on the way down, since they do have the Silver Shield to work with, potentially defense breaking some endgame enemies pretty soon.
And Game Boy, meanwhile, has picked up Erdrick's token and is heading back to Hawksness, perhaps to continue a grind. Ooh, and Stonemen with sleep.
Yeah, again, they just don't have the Hurt More spell, so he figures that 255 from a Red Dragon is just going to be, just as good as any other grind that you could come up with. I'll be interested once they get levels 15 or 16 and they get the Hurt More spell, if he ends up staying here. And you know what? He may end up staying here because, the Red Dragon fights will just get easier and easier as your stats grow. And so it just becomes a faster and faster 255 every time you defeat one. But yeah, once you get Hurt More, I'll be interested to see if he makes the switch, or if he feels like this is the most efficient grind. He's the only one so far to do it. The others, Xarnax and Betastrep, both went with this overworld grind.
And Betastrep, meanwhile, taking a long while with this Stone Man here, but you can see the experience lead at the moment, just 95 for Game Boy.
Yeah, this is super close now between those two, and Game Boy still has to walk over and get the rainbow drop if he hasn't done that yet. So this is like a virtual tie right now between those two. Betastrep, I wonder if he just wants to get down to that second zone just to see what else is in there. Sometimes you just want to know if there's a lot of red dragons and things that are hard to run away from in the various zones. And other thing to look out for is any Sharlock enemy that happens to have the sleep spell, but I haven't really noticed any sleep spells thwarting the runners throughout this run.
Well, a paltry level 15 for Game Boy, but Hurt More is acquired at level 15. So we'll see. I mean, Game Boy didn't even really check. He just went right back in at the Red Dragon and figured he would see it when he went to cast a Heal More spell. Meanwhile, we have a Torch Deep in Garen's Grave. I did not see what was above it in the 4th level.
Yeah, I missed it also, and the main thing we'd be looking for really is the Fighter's Ring. Whether or not he gets the +2 attack power for that, not too sure if he found it or if that would be in Sharlock Castle. And LordoftheSynth still only on level 10. I'm not sure. Well, he doesn't even have the MP to cast outside. Looks like he's just going to Death Warp out of there.
And it looks like Xarnax is grinding in the same spot that Betastrep did. However, I believe, I'm going to have to take a little bit longer of a look, but I believe Xarnax had cast the Repel spell. So not bothering with the fights with the Druids and Spectres that were there, and just opting to go for Axe Knights and Blue Dragons.
Yeah, even the Rogue Scorpion would probably be repelled at this point. So I can understand that situation. I think a Rogue Scorpion might be nice, but if you got too many Spectres, you feel like it might slow you down. So take the sure thing, go with the Axe Knights and the Blue Dragons, I guess. Axe Knights are especially good in the seed, as you mentioned, with that the stop spell spamming. You don't even necessarily need to heal yourself in those battles, but yep, that's Similar strategies between Xarnax and betastrep on the grind. It's been interesting to watch that while Game Boy goes with the more traditional spike tile grind.
Oh, and meanwhile, in that second level, we were talking about it in Sharlock, Axe Knights galore. And you can see that makes the experience level at the moment, well, it was 17, and now the lead back over to betastrep in experience.
Alright, level up for LordoftheSynth, and he's in a dungeon again. I'm not sure which one he's exploring now, but he seems to only have the token remaining as well, so it would behoove him to seek out those search spots at his next opportunity. He's got everything else that he needs, and he's been running around in the dungeons. And yeah, we do have the second zone now for betastrep. Not sure what kind of enemy mix we have here, but he's going to try and get that information. And if he continues far enough, he might take a peek into the treasury, but I feel like he's going to run out of resources before that happens. But you never know. And we do have red dragons on this second zone, so that's good for him to note. They're very difficult to run away from, and they also pack quite a punch, so on a very borderline final level, that's something to take into account.
And Game Boy taking a death to the red dragon while grinding, and is now going to make the trek back. And meanwhile, just chipping along the way, betastrep has, for the moment, expanded the experience lead to about 350. And betastrep now in the final enemy zone, the 5th basement of Sharlock, heading down to the 7th. Quick walk along the U, a little quick left to right. There's basement 6 with the trolley werewolf, which isn't a bad enemy to go for either, as at this point, betastrep damage breaking the werewolves.
Yeah, and he can probably outpunch the heal spell that they occasionally cast also, so this should be a safe 95 experience. And he actually is closing in on that treasury now, and so maybe he'll go ahead and take a peek for the fighter's ring. It's the only thing that could help him at this point to find. I guess we don't have the flute marked off for him either, but we know that's in Hawksness. So he'll take a look at these chests. +2 for attack power would be a nice little bonus. So far, no good though.
Good amount of fairy water, which works like the repel spell. And the other cursed belt, so that confirms that the fairy flute is in Hawksness. And there's the fighter's ring.
Alright, didn't have to take a separate walk somewhere else for the fighter's ring, gets +2 for that. That will put him, well, I don't know exactly what their strength scores are, but oh, we got a quick peek of it there. It was but they're still pretty low, I think, even in the mid-teens. Level 15 now, I think they still have a ways to go.
Oh no, another crash for Xarnax.
Okay, so that answers my earlier question about what happened to Xarnax when all of a sudden I looked up and he was had fallen pretty far behind. So he must have had a software crash earlier on that put him pretty far back, and you can see now he's only got 500 experience. That's a shame. Because he was actually in the early stages making really good progress. He was keeping pace with Game Boy around levels 7 and 8. And then I looked up at one point and he was still on level 9. I didn't realize he had a crash and had lost some of his experience. So that's a tough situation for Xarnax. He will not be continuing. Should still be getting 1 point for his troubles though, right? Moving on to week 4 of the league.
I believe that is the case, although we can check into those things. I did take a look at the replay here, and At level 15, even with the fighter's ring, the attack power 106.
Yeah, so we're still actually pretty far away, and Betastrep's made it all the way around and is like a step away from seeing what the mini-boss is, and he may not be... Well, he's actually defense breaking Green Dragon, so was able to survive that battle. And I assume he actually checked what it was. Okay, so we're seeing that it was the Golem, and he unfortunately does not have the flute. So, interesting that the Golem is there. But as long as the Golem doesn't have the sleep spell or anything obnoxious like that, then it's not necessarily the end of the world to not have the flute in your possession. But I'm sure he wishes that he had found it at this point.
Now, with the noted attack power here, it's it's certainly interesting in that if Betastrep were to take on the second form of the Dragon Lord now, he would do a whopping 1 to 3 hit points of damage. The Dragon Lord can have anywhere from 150 to 165 hit points. Not quite time yet.
Yeah, and honestly, oftentimes at level 15, it is time. So this is a longer than average seed from that perspective. I don't feel like 16 is going to be it either. So we're going to get into the upper teens for levels before this is all over. So quite a bit of grinding remaining on the plate. Both Game Boy and Betastrep do have the Hurt More spell, though, although I'm not sure. Yeah, see, Betastrep is using Hurt More now on
oh my goodness,
like the Droll Magi.
Level 16 for Game Boy, stat gains of 4, 3, 3, and 1.
So 4 more strength puts him up to, what? 108 because he doesn't yet have the fighter's ring. Yeah, so still a little ways to go, and it would be only maybe about 10 or 12 away from going if they were able to use the Death Necklace, but even the HP is lacking as well. Just 95 hit points for Game Boy, which is barely doable for a Dragon Lord fight if you had all sorts of other stats, and certainly not doable to use the Death Necklace. So we got a ways to go here. If we're not going to be using the Death Necklace, then we're looking at maybe another 20 to 25 strength required here. Once in a while you get it all in one level up, but if you don't, this could be a long grind.
Now, it should be noted that the names that were entered in, you see the capital Z, the capital J, and the lowercase d. In case you didn't know, the first 4 characters of your name, depending on how you put it in, it determines certain growth of certain stats. That's why if you see in the stats there the plus marks next to the strength and HP, they all went with builds that are supposed to give bonuses to strength and hit points. Where the heck they are, I have no idea, but they're supposed to be there.
So this is important now. Well, so Betastrep still had some MP in reserve. He has decided to go away from the Red Dragon Spike Tile. It was like a mirror image, he and Game Boy in grind and go mode on the Red Dragon Spike Tile, just 200 points apart. And Game Boy is continuing the Red Dragon grind, and Betastrep, I'm not sure if he's going to try and do something else, and we're going to have to see now if that pays off. I'm starting to wonder if he's getting ready to go into Sharlock to try and gamble on fighting his way down, because he's preparing himself with herbs and torches now. I feel like Betastrep's going to gamble that 17 is the level, and he's going to go for Sharlock now. Seems pretty early based on the stats we're looking at, but he still had like half of his MP left, and he turned away from that Red Dragon grind, and since doing so, now Game Boy has almost a 1,000-point lead again, just like that, because Betastrep is doing something else.
And this is where that question comes into play, although Betastrep does have the knowledge of what's in Sharlock that Game Boy does not have.
Yeah, so the thing is, he has because the silver, a lot of times people knock the silver shield like it's not that big a deal, but he has the silver shield, which now puts him up to 92 defense power. That means that he is defense breaking wizards, werewolves, star wyverns, and green dragons, and he's getting close to defense breaking axe knights. And a lot of those were things that he did see while he was in Sharlock. So that means that he can take a lot of these fights without having to heal himself in between. So if he's able to preserve this MP on his way down on this walk, he could potentially go for a game. Now, it looks like he's not actually at totally full MP, so I don't know if he didn't take an in there, or I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but... so now he's using Hurt More. Okay. I'm not sure if he's just choosing this as a grind. I thought for a moment he was going to try and like basically get all the way down to the mini-boss and just grind down there. You know, since he is defense breaking a lot of the enemies in here, sometimes you try and save a few minutes that way, but...
Now, we mentioned defense breaking. What that means is when your defense points are the same as or higher than an enemy's strength, a different attack range is calculated, resulting in less damage, in some cases even 0 hit points, or at least as low as 0. So in the case of that 92 defense, those enemies that are given troubles like the wizards, the werewolves, the star wyverns, the green dragons, they're hitting for anywhere from 0 to 14, maybe 0 to 15. It's the other enemies in Sharlock, though, they're going to cause some trouble, like the Axe Knights, the Blue Dragons, the Stone Men, the Armored Knights, the Golems, as well as the Red Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why that exploratory dive earlier seemed like, you know, a lot of times that gives you that information. So now you know, is it the easier half of enemies that you are defense breaking that you're getting for the most part, or is it a really difficult Sharlock? And sometimes you can get a feel for which zone you can hang out in for a grind as well, because there are 3 different zones in Sharlock with different enemy mixes. And if you can find one that has mostly enemies that you are defense breaking and don't have obnoxious abilities like the sleep spell, then maybe you want to hang out there, which it kind of looks like he is doing now, but maybe it's just maybe he's just getting bombarded by enemies. He's not really able to make progress on his walk here. But so even the golem here is worth 255, but that's a longer fight, and they pack a pretty big punch, so not the greatest situation. But you can see he's falling a little bit further behind Game Boy, who's just going with the Red Dragon grind now.
Well, you can see even with as high of a defense as they have, the Golem is still going to punch for anywhere from 18 to 37 hit points.
Yeah, see, now he's walking back and forth. I guess this is the end of Zone 1, correct? So it's just, he just wants to stay here and find these Axe Knights, and there are Star Wyvern.
We are definitely going to 18. Level 17 giving 3 strength, 1 agility, 4 hit points, and 7 magic points. So
that puts the hit points over the top. Good news about the hit points, but yeah, you're absolutely right. That strength score is really struggling. It's always amusing to still see a white statistic in our tracker there. We have it all color-coded for your enjoyment. And a white statistic at level 17 is frustrating.
Frustrating definitely isn't the word for it. I'll stop there to not paraphrase wrestler Bret Hart, as I want to keep on this gig here by not going a little too over the top with the colorful language that I'm sure some of our runners are probably using looking at these statistics.
Yeah, also only 1 response speed, which is basically the agility stat, which means that they didn't get any defense boost, and so Axe Knights are still not defense broken. That's just a small detail, but there are Axe Knights in that Sharlock zone. Betastrep will not not gain that advantage when he hits 17 here. Yeah, that was a pretty terrible level up. And I would say that level 18 is pretty far above average. It's not totally extreme yet. If 18 happens to be the last level, that's not too extreme, but it's definitely longer than average. We've crossed an hour and a half now with runners that are very, very good at this game, so this is clearly a longer than average seed.
An amazing toaster noting in chat that perhaps Xarnax got the good end of things by not having to grind all of this.
And Game Boy is systematically just going after red dragons for his grind, just feeling that that's the most efficient use of his time. The reason why spike tiles are traditionally the grind choice is because it's a guaranteed encounter, so you're not in a situation where you're walking around looking for an enemy, and every once in a while, because of the way the game works, you can actually walk 100 steps and not find an enemy if just the RNG works in that direction. So you can just take 2 steps every time and get a red dragon, and it's worth 255. So Game Boy has decided that that is the best way to get points, and he has been getting the thinnest of leads again over Betastrep, who has gone in a different route with his grind here, taking the Sharlock grind.
Well, it has grown by more than a thin lead, as it's now at about 1,400 and counting.
Yeah, that lead was down to about 200 when Betastrep was right next to him doing the same grind. Sometimes actually switching your grind, you could see how it costs you points just getting over to the other place to do your other grind. So, switching mid-grind to another method, can cost you as well, just the time it takes to make the switch. I feel like most of this 1,000 points here that he's down is just from making that switch. And now he's going to get all the way out of resources as Betastrep, and I'm starting to wonder if he is going to take his next life after being resuscitated and try and fight his way down for the final level. Because that is the one way that he could potentially overtake Game Boy at this point, is if it is the next level and he already is down there at the mini-boss while Game Boy is still all the way up here in Hawksness. Just the time it takes for Game Boy to walk down might be just enough for Betastrep to steal the victory. But it's a pretty big gamble because they still have a long way to go with that strength score, so you have to hope that you're going to get, plus 20 on a level up, which is not impossible, it's just unlikely.
Well, Game Boy at this point is just 1 red dragon away from level 18. The target number to 18 is 14,250, I believe.
So Betastrep is en route to Sharlock, and I'm starting to try and watch and see if he is going to burn some of this MP. I think he did use some of it, right? Did he already use some MP here?
Yes. Betastrep cast
okay.
the spell of return to exit the castle a little bit quicker, and is now using sleep and stop spell here on the Stone Man.
Yeah, so he's not going for game here. He's clearly just using this as his grind still.
Oh, wow. And level 18, not enough either. Just 5 strength, 10 hit points, no agility, no MP, and a very ecstatic empty eye.
Yeah, so that means Death Necklace is still pretty far out of reach as well. If it was usable, they probably would have enough at this point. Even then, it seems a little late, but yeah, with no Death Necklace, we're still way out of reach. It's 116 attack power. If he had the ring, he'd have 118. That is almost never enough, so more levels for Game Boy. And if 19's not enough, then we start getting into the territory where it becomes actually more experience needed for each level. Right now, it's still, I think, only 2250 between levels, but once you go from 19 to 20, the gap is even wider, so it just becomes even more painful to grind even more levels as you go deeper and deeper here. So let's hope we can avoid some of that.
Well, if it turns out that level 19 isn't enough, then Xarnax is certainly good at predicting the future, at least noting from about 11 minutes ago when he had stated in chat that he doubts that level 19 will be enough.
Yeah, and we're starting to get a glimpse into why, even like in the early-ish to middle game, why they were kind of stuck on levels 7 and 8, going on like 35 to 40 minutes. Just the stat progressions just weren't very quick in this one, both the strength and the HP. And interestingly enough, all of our runners chose to use a build that emphasizes the strength and the HP stats. And yet those are the ones that have been lacking. So if they went with a different build, they would be even more lacking still. So they're getting bonuses in those stats right now, and they're, you know what I mean? Like, what is going on?
Well, suffice it to say that at the conclusion of this race here, we're going to be throwing it over to Randomania 2, as coming up in about 20 minutes from now, the third and final race for you this evening here in Week 3 of the Dragon Warrior Randomizer League. It's going to be Group 6, and it'll be a battle between Bass Pistol, Captain Green 7, and Ryu Station. That starts up in about 20 minutes over on Randomania 2. And we'll throw the host over to it because this... Oh, it's like that famous candy bar commercial. Looks like we're not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah, it could be a little while. And I'm actually getting kind of interested in the fact that we have these two totally different grinds, and it looks like it's become clear that the choice that Game Boy has made has been the superior choice, as he now has a 2,000 experience point lead, and it's growing. So they both had the opportunity to choose how they wanted to get all these levels, and the Red Dragon grind seems to be slightly more efficient than the Charlotte grind. And I sometimes wonder if it's a little bit of like a mental thing where you first encounter these red dragons at like levels 10 and 11. You keep trying to defeat one to search the spot. They're super long battles. You keep dying to them. And it just feels like, well, that can't possibly be a good choice to grind on, right? But now we're at level 18 with, you know, triple digit attack power and HP and plenty of MP. And all of a sudden the red dragons are going down pretty quick for 255 each. So I think turns out Game Boy seems to have made the better choice. And we'll see what happens. I think he's closing in on 19 now.
Yeah, 16,500 the numbers, so we're pretty close to level 19. And it looks like the challenge that Betastrep has run into in the first floor of Charlock is, while yes, there are Axe Knights that are certainly good, and while there are Star Wyverns, there's also Golems, and there's these pesky Stone Men that have a lot of hit points, and they have the spell Asleep, so you're wasting 2 turns each time you encounter one to put it to sleep, one to cast Stop Spell on it so it doesn't put you to sleep, and then you still have quite a few attacks to be able to take it out.
Here we go. Are we going to get a double-digit strength gain? Yes, we are.
There it is.
It is go time.
So
Game Boy, and so again, this is kind of what I was wondering about if Betastrep was going to gamble on something like that happening while standing right next to the mini boss, because in that situation you don't even have to go back and heal or anything. It's just like, oh, I'm completely overpowered now. It's time to go fight the Dragon Lord. And it's just, unfortunately, he just fell a little bit too far behind, so he never had an opportunity to try that strategy. But, you know, if Game Boy is way up here and he gets the level up here and Betastrep was down there, I felt like that was the only way that he could have made up a little bit of ground there. But I think it's too little too late, but only time will tell. There's no such thing as a totally free Sharlock dive. There are some challenges in there, but Game Boy is going to grab the drop en route to Sharlock, and he's going in with 148 attack power now we're looking at. Is that right? So that's like...
that is correct.
Only needing somewhere around 8 heal mores to take care of the Dragon Lord, and he's got about double that. So it is very hard to foresee a situation where this dive fails.
Not that he would, and MTI just pointing it out here in chat, but theoretically, if Game Boy wants to divert over to the treasury there in the bottom floor of Sharlock, pick up the ring, that increases that upper part of the range by 1, so it would be 12 minimum to 25 maximum on the second form of the Dragon Lord.
Not too shabby. And again, I don't even remember any of these enemies having the sleep spell. That's usually the only way that you know, an overpowered hero could have trouble on a dive like this.
Well, the Stone Man definitely has it.
The Stone Man does have the sleep spell? So you never know.
Yeah, that was Betastrep's problem, was he kept getting slept and wrecked by the Stone Man.
And Game Boy's asleep. Here we go. And he's still asleep. But no. I don't see that being a continual problem. First of all, Stone Men are very slow enemies, so the likelihood of getting ambushed by one at this point is pretty low. And as soon as he gets off this zone, I'm not sure if there were Stone Men further down. I don't remember exactly. But he's now off the zone, he's in the second zone, so Game Boy survived the scare.
Now, for those joining us late, I know we've kind of focused our attention on the close battle here between Game Boy and Betastrep. LordoftheSynth, respectably up to level 14. Now, in the beginning of the seed, about 20 minutes in, Synth decided to opt for a reset, essentially just erasing the first 20 minutes of everything, and opted to start over in the purpose of gaining a chest of gold in the throne room, and then headed over to the nearby town to purchase a hand axe, which made getting started a little bit easier, but wiping away 20 minutes of battle in this particular seed, you can see where the difference is with Synth at level 14 and Game Boy at 19, Betastrep at 18.
Yeah, quite frankly, I'm going to have to go back and rewatch exactly what happened there, because I can't imagine too many scenarios where you'd want to reset your game 20 minutes in. I know that the beginning of his second run went much smoother than the first run, obviously, but yeah, erasing 20 minutes of progress is pretty rare that you'd want to do that. But it'll be fun to see if he is able to finish, you know, within 20 minutes of the other two runners. As we go, he is going to have to play it out, I think, to get the points for third place, is my assumption. So as in terms of league play, third place is worth 2 points. So LordoftheSynth is soldiering on, and Game Boy's approaching the mini-boss.
So Betastrep now in Hawk's Nest and is going to opt for that Red Dragon grind.
Yeah, and he's very close now to 19 himself as well. A couple of Red Dragons away. So he'll probably get 19 before Game Boy actually finishes the seed, and he'll be en route. And this is one of the most free Dragon Lord fights of all time. Here goes Game Boy about to decimate Dragon Lord, both forms.
Yep. Now, the second form of the Dragon Lord has anywhere from 150 to 165. Dragon Lord's first form has anywhere from 75 to 100. And just a quick, easy two-shot, and on we go to the second form of the Dragon Lord. Starting off with 17. And another 21. We're up to 38 already.
I feel like just for the challenge of it, he should have just equipped the death necklace to see if he could still win. Because I bet he would still have a chance.
Up to 80 already after 4 strikes, so averaging 20 per. 99.
And Betastrep just got the good news at 18, so he is on his way.
And another 19, so that's 118 already, and still ample heal mores.
Oh, by the way, Lord of the Synth is rescuing the princess, something we did not see from the other runners. So that'll make his count for the token a bit easier.
Up to 150, so this next strike, unless it's a bare minimum, should do it here. Yep, 19, that puts it well over the 165, and Game Boy has defeated the Dragon Lord.
Sub 2 hours. Sub 2 hours for Game Boy. Very well run race.
Yeah, get out your GGs in chat for gameboyf9, who is going to finish in first place here in this Group 2 race with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 13 seconds.
All right. Congratulations for Game Boy. I think that when all is said and done, it's going to come down to, in the very beginning, he was able to use some of that gold for the copper sword. I feel like that saved a good 5 minutes over his competition. Progress was very slow in the beginning stages, and he was the only one that was able to get that weapon. I think put him out to an early lead. Betastrep did get the early keys, but it just, as it turns out, too little too late, I suppose.
Yo, yo, yo.
Game Boy, congratulations.
Thank you very much. That was just like last week. It was one of those seeds where you had to earn every single experience point.
Yeah, I was commenting on that. It wasn't a completely obnoxious seed where just no progress could be made, but the progress was kind of slow and steady. There was not a jet seed. There was no early hurt more, no early sword, and all the stat progressions were kind of slow. So yeah, absolutely, you guys, you were kind of on the medium levels, the earliest levels, 6, 7, and 8, like 35, 40 minutes in, which is on the slow side for you guys, I would say.
Yeah, that was yeah, and then and then level 19 hit.
I felt like we were due for one of those, the way things were going. So yeah, that was pretty good. So I think a big factor for you is just kind of how you aggressively played the early game when you got the Erdrick's armor, and then I don't recall exactly when you got heal more, but you were doing some exploration really early, like level 2 and 3. You were like running around on the overworld looking for stuff. So you found a couple of extra towns, and you were able to pick up the copper sword. I feel like that makes the difference here, because everybody else was running around with the bamboo pole for, 20 minutes probably, and you were able to make some progress with the copper sword. I think that helped you out a lot.
I see. Yeah, the big thing was like, looks like, we're going to have nothing but scorpions and magicians, and I've got 8 power. Okay, enough of this. Let's try to be aggressive. Maybe I can find a really good sword. Maybe I can find an Erdrick sword, and it turned out I got a copper sword out of it, so I'll take it. But that was my thinking as I through the early game.
Yeah, the early game, there were enough deaths for everybody that by the time everybody else found those towns, they had run out of that starting gold, so they weren't able to buy the weapon upgrades. So it took a while for some of the other guys to work through that portion of the game. It was kind of only maybe a few minutes lead that you got there, but it was enough to kind of propel you forward. I don't remember what else. Another big difference, I guess, was the grind choice. You just were pretty much gung-ho on the Red Dragon grind, and it looked like the other two runners that were behind you went with like an overworld grind, and in some cases a Sherlock grind. So you felt like the Red Dragons were the better choice, and it seemed like it was, as it turns out.
Yeah, well, it looks like betastrep is right there. So where did betastrep?
Yeah, so betastrep found Rimildar first, and that really got him in a situation where he was able to catch up to your early lead, because he was able to do the gold grind for the flame sword and the silver shield a bit earlier than you. So he made up some ground at that point. But yeah, it was pretty close between you guys.
Yeah, I knew if whoever got through the zone of doom, Red Dragons and Blue Dragons, was going to win that race. Or well, I wouldn't say win the race, obviously, because I won, but they were going to do very well.
So was there a bottleneck on the map that you had to walk through? Is that what happened?
I don't know if anybody saw. I think probably the worst thing that happened to me in this seed was seeing Rimildar as early as I did, because I kept going back trying to get through there. There's that big stretch of desert that was full of blue dragons, red dragons, star wyverns, dragon lord breathing wolves. I got about 3 steps away from Rimildar, about 10 minutes into the race, and then spent about another 20 minutes trying to get there again to actually get inside it.
I see. And now that brings up detail I remember now, is that betastrep actually was able to get there early, and he didn't have enough gold even for 1 key. So I feel like if he could have even bought 1 key on that first trip, it may have actually saved him 5 minutes. See, he had to try and get back there again. As you know, it was difficult getting back there. So yeah. So yeah, that turned out to be a very important town, because it was hard for you guys to really make progress without getting keys. So unfortunately, Xarnax, I guess you just explained, but you had a couple of software problems and were unable to continue.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was. I mean, it's a known risk. My console has been pretty finicky for a while now, and I'm starting to get to the point where I might think about playing on emulator, but I really don't like it. GG betastrep. But yes, I mean, I typically will save in the middle of races, and I did at one point in this one, but then, and actually I got really lucky. I had a crash about 2 minutes after that save. And then I had another one like an hour later.
Oh, so it was only about 2 minutes lost there. I remember I looked up and I said, "Oh, Xarnax is further behind than I thought," but it wasn't so much that I could realize that it was a crash. I didn't catch your first crash, so
yep.
So that's what happened there.
Was not much time lost at all.
Sub 2 hours for betastrep, by the way, on a challenging seed.
Yeah, betastrep finishing up in second place, and we'll get 3 points with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 45 seconds.
Yeah, this seed was pretty. But that's so unfortunate, Xarnax, because I know you play this game very well, and
I mean, you don't need to feel too. It's a risk that I knowingly take. It's happened enough times that I've kind of just learned to roll with it. So I'm not been out of shape about it. It is a bummer for sure. It'll be interesting and fun to go back and watch and see how things went back and forth and how I was keeping pace with the rest of you until that happened.
Well, there was another setback that occurred. In this case, it was a voluntary one, as about 20 minutes into the seed, Lord of the Synth opted to go for a reset and ended up taking the king's treasure chest in the throne room and utilized that to purchase a hand axe.
He reset 20 minutes in. Wow, that's a risk.
He really struggled. What happened with him was he, I think similar to you, Game Boy, wasn't really finding anything to fight in the starting zone, and he just started exploring on level 1. And he just he was on level 1 for a long time, couldn't find anything to fight. I think he eventually did get off level 1, but he had not made a lot of progress, and was really pretty deep in. Obviously had died so many times that he didn't have any gold left, so he decided to reset just to get the gold back. So it was pretty brutal in the beginning for him. Yep. Tough seed for you guys. That was a challenging one.
Yeah, definitely a challenging seed, and I know a lot of people like seeing those challenging seeds where you just have to earn it all, but
yeah, it wasn't so obnoxious where you guys were taking 5 steps and dying and just couldn't make any progress, but it did seem like there were a lot of decisions and a lot of like you said, you had to earn it. There were no free fights. It was deciding what to fight, what to run from, where to grind. It's everything. Xarnax it looked like you were doing the overworld grind in the desert as well, instead of going with the red dragon grind. So that was a decision.
I probably would have gotten moved over to Hawksness after another level or two. I was still at a point where I was casting Heal More twice during a red dragon fight, if not 3 times. My HP and strength were just too low to make Hawksness make any sense yet. Especially, I was hoping to find a zone where after casting Repel, I could encounter exclusively Axe Knights. But the fact that there were any in that zone at all made it seem worthwhile for me.
Yeah, with the stop spell spamming, right? So even if you didn't have very good strength, you were able to at least get through it without having to heal.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for mentioning the Axe Knights. That's why I went to the Swamp Cave. I was like, come on, Axe Knight, Red Dragon.
Oh, so yeah, I was curious about that and the fact that you didn't bother to get the princess while you were right there. But I guess you had not gotten the coordinates yet, right? I think later on you got it. And I said, oh, well, that must explain why you didn't bother with the princess at the time.
Yeah, and I did. Yeah, you're right. I should have gotten the princess.
Yeah, because the only thing you had left was the token, and I sometimes at that point you really you just want to go after the search spots just because the token could be there instead of trying to dive into whatever dungeon and stuff. But I think you still hadn't gotten the coordinates, and I don't know. You still had a lot of running around to do compared to Betastrep, who had, like I said, he had gotten the keys quite a bit earlier, so he was kind of done doing all that at that point. So I had forgotten.
Yeah, I had 72 HP that fight, didn't I?
When you in the Swamp Cave Red Dragon that you actually won?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that seemed like I wasn't sure if you were gonna be able to beat it on that one, but it worked out.
Yeah, I was like, oh, whatever. I'm gonna be dead meat, and then I got an excellent move straight away, and I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. If I win, it's 255 points. If not, well.
Yeah, don't worry about the princess. She can just hang out and just turned around and just kind of went through the rest of the cave. That was funny.
Yeah, did I have outside? I guess I did have outside. I never thought of it.
You were just taking the victory walk. That's all.
the walk of victory or shame or
So congrats on the victory, Game Boy, and I guess week 4. Maybe you can explain better than me what awaits you.
Week 4. Week 4 is this is probably the week I'm looking most forward to, and it's not just because of the speed hacks. It's also because it's also because the map is not randomized at all. I mean, well, except for the locations are randomized, but the map isn't. So it's just going to be a kind of a blast from the past here, and we'll just see how we all can manage where we know where everything is. So, but it's going to be fast and furious. We'll be looking forward to Ferran Burgundy turning into an auctioneer.
Oh, this should be interesting. Yeah, standard. The standard mode, we're going to leave chaos alone for a little while. Last week was chaotic enough. But yes, these speed hacks along with the vanilla map, so it's the Aleph Guard that you know and love from when you played the game as a kid.
Honestly, speed hacks have been around for a little while now with the randomizer, and I'm always surprised that it hasn't kind of caught on more popularity. It definitely saves quite a bit of time when running a seed, and the quote unquote standard flags that people like to race don't include speed hacks. So it's good that we'll at least get to see them, see how randomizer works next week when everybody runs it with those flags.
Yeah, a lot of us it makes it so much faster that it actually does change significantly the strategy, the approach to the seed, which is why I know myself, Nest Sparkover, and probably Jay Coper, several others prefer not playing with speed hacks. It makes a lot of the decision making a lot less meaningful, in my opinion. There's so many times when the option to explore or to grind it's so much easier to just say, "Oh, I can get another level in 2 minutes."
Yeah, understandable. I've heard that before, that it does make the decisions different for sure.
Tillo with a nice diss of speed hacks there. Makes chaos 10 times better. Come on, man. Yeah, that's all right. I know a lot of people do prefer the normal, and that's totally understandable.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun to play, and it's fun to race as well. But I definitely prefer a little bit slower, more deliberate flag sets.
I have to admit, Tilo does have a point as far as speed hacks making chaos 10 times better. I mean, 10 times 0 is 0, right?
Ooh.
So I do see betastrep now in chat. So congrats on the second place finish, betastrep, sub 2 hours. And yeah, that was something, as you said there.
All right. Well, I'm going to head on out, but good game to all of our runners. It was a very, very good seed there. I just want to thank all the commentary, the trackers, and the restreamer. I think Xarnax had to do both. Did Xarnax had to do both today?
No, Smashy was on the tracking. However, Smashy departed a little bit ago to do commentary for our other race over on Randomania 2.
Ah, very good, very good. Well, so I'd like to thank everybody for doing that, and we'll see you all next week.
All right, thanks, Game Boy. Awesome.
Congrats again on the win.
And so where are we at with LordoftheSynth here on his progress? Let's say level 16, and he's got everything now, right? Did he get the token? I'm going to assume he got the token, and he's in grind and go mode. So little does he know he's going to need level 19 and about, I don't know. What is level 19 again? Is it 16.5 or is it the next one for experience? So he's got like 40 more red dragons or something to kill, and then we can go fight the Dragon Lord.
16,500 is the number to get to level 19.
All right. So about 5,000 more experience. 255 a pop. Ferran can do some quick math, and that's how many red dragons we need. And Be curious to see if Lord of the Synth is able to come within 20 minutes of our second place finisher. It'll be close.
Well, it's been brought to my attention behind the scenes here, not that we want to necessarily cut things short, but there was scheduled for 10 o'clock here on Randomania 3. There was supposed to be a Zelda 1 randomizer race, I believe part of the All Boards, No Swords tournament that is going on here. So we are unfortunately going to have to cut things short here a little bit. If you want to watch Lord of the Synth continue his run, you can certainly do so following Lord of the Synth on his own channel. We, meanwhile, I believe, are going to take things over to Randomania 2, where Smashy is going to be on the call for our third race of the night, as it's going to be Bass 33, Tristal MTG, Captain Green 7, and Reusation. And make sure to give some love to the other folks behind the scenes. Smashy on the track, Smashy on the tracking, Xarnax on the restream. Make sure to give all of our runners a follow as well. Lord of the Synth, Xarnax42, gameboyf9, and betastrep. And up to NG, it's been a pleasure as always. But we're having to cut things short, unfortunately.
Always fun. There'll be plenty of more action tonight and in the future.
Most certainly. A couple of races still to be scheduled, but unless there's any surprises for tomorrow, we've got another triple header coming your way Wednesday night, and we'll bring that to you here among the Randomania networks. But until then, for Up to NG and all the folks behind the scenes here at Randomania 3, I'm Ferran Burgundy saying until next time, may your moves be excellent and your seeds stay classy. Good night, everyone.